So today we're going to look at different types of triangles. First up, we have an equilateral triangle, which just means that all three sides are congruent. In this term, equilateral can actually be used for other types of polygons. If we have a five-sided polygon with all equal sides, it is also equilateral. A equilateral triangle is also equiangular, which means all three angles are congruent. And again, that same idea that the name can work for all other polygons. So if I have a square, for example, all four of my angles are right angles, so it is also equiangular. A scalene triangle is where no two sides are congruent, so all three sides are completely different sizes. Even if it's different by 0.1, it's still going to be a scalene triangle because we want to make sure that none of those sides are congruent. An isosceles triangle is where at least two sides are congruent. So if it has three sides congruent, like an equilateral triangle, it is still isosceles because it still falls into the at least two sides are congruent idea. A right triangle has one right angle. An acute triangle has all angles that are less than 90 degrees. An obtuse triangle has one angle greater than 90 degrees. Right triangles and isosceles triangles have some different parts and names for those specific parts. In a right triangle, the side across from the right angle is called our hypotenuse, and it's always going to be our largest side. And our other two sides are called the legs. In an isosceles triangle, the side that has the two angles that are congruent on either side of it is called our base. Now this base can be rotated. It can be here. It all depends on where congruent angles are. Our other two sides are called our legs. Our angles that are congruent are called our base angles. And our third angle that is not congruent to the other ones, unless it's an equilateral of course, is called our vertex angle. So again, that vertex angle can rotate depending on where those other two congruent angles are. So just a couple questions to kind of wrap it up. Is an equilateral triangle an isosceles triangle? Well, because an equilateral is three sides congruent, an isosceles is greater than or equal to two sides congruent, this is going to be a yes. All equilateral triangles are also isosceles triangles. However, if we turn it around, is an isosceles triangle an equilateral triangle? That's going to have to be a no, because equilateral strictly means you have to have three sides that are congruent. And isosceles is just two or more. And typically when we think of isosceles, we think of the fact that it's two sides congruent. And lastly, is an equilateral triangle an equiangular triangle? And vice versa. With triangles especially, this is going to be true. If I have a triangle that has all three sides congruent, all three of my angles will also be congruent. So, to sum up, we've got a couple different types of triangles. I can name these by sides, or I can name these by angles. If I'm looking at, focusing on by sides, I can say I have an equilateral, a scalene, and an isosceles. Because these all talk about their sides. If I want to talk about by angles, I can have an equiangular, a right, an acute, and an obtuse. Technically, an equiangular is a more specific type of acute triangle, since in an equiangular triangle all of our angles will be 60, but it's just another classification. So thanks for watching, and we'll work on some more problems with this in class.